Hello everybody, welcome back to another exciting adventure, Reading with Grandma. Today we're going to read a story written by my mother, who is 90 years old. We read the Three Little Kittens stories. I hope everybody enjoyed them. I didn't see too many comments, but I hope you all read them or listened to the stories and enjoyed them. The next two stories are about a pair of twins named Molly and Albert. So let's just get started with their adventure. I have not read these yet. I haven't even read these to my grandsons. So everybody out there is the first ones to hear our stories. Here we go. Molly and Albert, a set of 6-year-old twins, lived with their parents in Carson Creek, Oregon. Their parents both worked, their mother as a clerk in the hardware store, and their father was a plumber. He worked long hours fixing people's pipes when they leaked. He also installed all of the water pipes in their new home. He was very careful to get everything put together right so the pipes never leaked and people always had hot and cold running water to take baths and showers and wash the dishes after each meal. Miss Sally Priosil watched the children while their parents worked. The children called her Miss Sally. She fixed them nice lunches and sometimes read them stories when it was raining or too cold for them to be outdoors for very long. Molly and Albert liked to play outside. They really enjoyed playing in the snow, and there was usually lots of it, from April till November. Almost every year. So on days like this, when there was lots of snow, Miss Sally helped the children build snowmen, and the other children on the block came over and helped roll the large balls to put the snowmen together. They all had a great time building snowmen, and sometimes there was enough snow to build even more than one. This year, there was an extra amount of it. Instead of building snowmen, the children all worked together to build a snow fort. All the children had a lot of fun crawling through it, being careful not to brush up against the sides, otherwise the fort might collapse on them. When Molly and Albert came back inside to get warmed up, Miss Sally, they had timed that well. They were just in time for lunch. She made them ham and cheese sandwiches. They were one of the favorite things they liked to eat. And she was just putting a plate of cookies on the table for their dessert. She had also fixed some hot chocolate to warm up with, adding a spoon of whipped cream on top for an extra treat. On the days the children didn't want to play outside, they spent the time coloring pictures with their crayons or cutting out different shapes they had drawn onto craft paper. Some days, Miss Sally helped the children with their reading. Molly and Albert each had their own coloring books, crayons, and scissors, so they could each do their own drawing and coloring cutouts. That way, they could each do their own thing and not have to worry about taking turns with their playthings. During the summer, the children spent a lot of time outside. They had fun playing on the swings and riding their tricycles around the sidewalk in front of their yard. Sometimes Miss Sally took the children to a nearby park. There were swings, seesaws, and sliding boards to play on, a big sand pile to play in, and lots of space where the children could run so they could burn off some of their energy. The twins often took their buckets and shovels with them to play in the sand. Other times they just played on the swings and seesaws. Molly and Albert always had fun playing with the other children in the park too. There were different children than those in their neighborhood, and that way maybe make new friends. At first the children played on the smaller sliding board, but then first Albert and then Molly got brave and climbed up on the bigger slide. Miss Sally would stand at the end of the slide watching the children as they sailed down that big sliding board, then catch them as they reached the bottom. They really enjoyed that. Then they had fun in the sand pile, filling their buckets all the way to the top, packing it in and dumping them out, making big mounds, and being careful to keep all the sand together. Miss Sally showed the children how to make other shapes with sand. She built them sandcastles and little roads where Albert could play with his cars and trucks. He had a dump truck too, that he filled with sand and then dumped it out again. Then, when summer was over, Molly and Albert started their first year of school. They spent the whole morning in their kindergarten class where they learned their ABCs and their numbers, their colors, and all different kinds of shapes like circles, squares, oblongs, and ovals. As Molly and Albert worked on their lessons, they soon found out that there was a lot to learn. The first hour of the school day they spent learning their ABCs and numbers. They learned how to spell words and put them into sentences. The teacher also taught them how to work simple math problems. Some of the papers the teacher handed out were just fun stuff, but even so, they taught the children other things they needed to know. Some of the papers she handed out, the children took home to work on and bring back to school so the teacher could grade them on their work. The children also spent part of their day reading little stories that the teacher handed out once a week during the school year. She sometimes gave them extra stories they could read during school breaks or in the summer. They both loved these little stories and enjoyed learning. The twins, along with the other students, learned something new almost every day. How to tie their shoes, how to get themselves dressed so they all looked properly put together. They also learned how to eat properly, chewing their food with their mouth closed. Sometimes it was so hard to remember everything. They found out that learning was sometimes fun, but quite often there were things that seemed to be too hard to learn. The teacher helped the children with their work. She spent a certain amount of time reading other stories to the children, ones that were different than what they had read for homework and at the other times during their school day. These were about children their own age and the adventures they had. The class always enjoyed hearing all these different stories, especially the ones about children who lived in other parts of the world. The class learned about different customs of these children. One day, the teacher said the children would be going to the library. The teacher asked the children to raise their hands if they had ever been to the library. About half the class raised their hands. The teacher asked them how many had ever checked out a book to take home. All the ones who had first raised their hands put them up again. About 10 o'clock, the children lined up and went out single file onto the bus. This was a new experience for some of them, and they were excited. When they got to the library, the teacher took them over to the section that held books they could read. She showed the children how to choose a book and how to check it out, and also how, with their parents' help, could apply for a library card if they didn't already have one. It didn't take them too long to find a book they liked. The teacher, speaking very quietly, told the children to sit down and read the book they had picked out. She spent her time moving from one child to another, checking to see if they needed help. Some words they came across as they read. A few of them needed help with a word or two here and there, but most of them read the stories they picked out without any trouble. And then it seemed like in no time at all the teacher told them it was time to go back to their classrooms. She gathered the children together and asked them if they would like to come back again. It seemed they all yelled yes, a few all at once. A few people looked up, startled by the sudden noise. But then the teacher, putting her finger to her lips, said quietly, "Shh, we can't make all that noise in here." Then she gathered the children together in front of her and said in a soft voice, "There are people who are studying, so we must be as quiet as little mice. I'm sure you all had fun doing something besides your lessons. Maybe we can come back here soon, but now we have to get back on the bus that will take us back to our school." Once everyone was on the bus and had settled down in their seats, she asked the children if they had fun coming to the library. They all yelled out at once, "Yes!" It took the teacher a few minutes to get them to quiet down again. Then she said she would check to see when they could make a return trip to the library. When the twins got home that day, they rushed into the house, shouting that they had been on the trip to the library. Their mother asked them if they had fun. They yelled, "Yes!" very loud. "Shh," their mother told them. "Let's not be so noisy. You two need to learn not to talk so loud. I know it's hard, especially if you are excited about something you want to do very much, but you need to learn to be a little quiet about it. Did you bring any papers home with you?" "Yes," Albert said, holding up a paper for his mother to see. And then, before she could take it, Molly came rushing in, anxious to show her the paper she had finished. Their mother took both papers, and then, sitting down, looked them over, seeing they both had done very well, and that the problems and lessons were correct. She told the twins they had done very well, and she was proud of them. The children had broad smiles on their faces as they ran off to the room to play with their toys. Albert with his cars that he moved along a small racetrack, and Molly with her doll and her little dishes. The twins spent a happy couple of hours playing with their toys before their mother called them to come in and eat their supper. After supper, the father gathered the twins on his lap and read them part of the news story book he had bought that day, a news storybook he had bought for them that day. The children sat very quietly, enjoying every word. After he read several chapters, he asked them how much they liked the book so far. They both shouted a little louder than they should how much they liked their new story. It took a few minutes for their father to calm them down, telling them he was glad they liked it. "Let's quiet down a little. It will be soon time for bed, and you both need to settle before your bedtime. Then you'll be able to sleep better." Slowly, the children settled down. The father held them close for a few minutes, then set them off their lap and said, "Go get your pajamas on and brush your teeth. Then your mother and I will come and tuck you in." Off the twins scurried to get undressed and brush their teeth. They were soon ready to be tucked in, so their parents came in and giving them a big hug and a kiss and wished them good night. About 10 minutes later, they were fast asleep and off to dreamland. Now it was quiet time for the parents. Going to their favorite chairs, they settled down, each with their own book, to read for a while before they went to bed. And that's the end of our adventures of Molly and Albert. I hope you all enjoyed this new story. Leave a like, hit the subscribe, hit the bell for notification you'll get notified when I read another story, and you can hear it and enjoy it. Leave a comment if you liked Molly and Albert. There are 2 Molly and Albert stories right now. If everybody leaves a comment and says you like them, my mother will be glad to write another edition of it. So tomorrow we're going to read another Molly and Albert. We're going to read Molly and Albert Spend the Day at the Zoo. That's tomorrow's story. Enjoy. Bye now.